This time, you've really outdone yourself with this case. Talk about a wild ride. It's like a financial thriller with a true crime twist.
It's one of those stories that grabs you from the start and just keeps getting wilder.
Exactly. Every detail uncovers another layer of deception.
Yeah.
And at the center of it all,
Alan J. Plowden.
this guy was living the high life, but little did anyone know. He was funding it all through a series of elaborate mortgage scams.
He was a master manipulator, able to convince even seasoned financial institutions to hand over millions.
So walk us through it. What was his game plan? How did he pull it off?
Well, Plowden was really a product of his time. The early 2000s saw a boom in the mortgage industry, and like many fraudsters, he exploited the system's weaknesses.
Kind of like finding a glitch in the financial matrix and exploiting it for all it's worth.
Precisely. He created these phantom companies, complete with fake addresses and everything, just to secure loans.
Wait, so these companies, they weren't even real?
Not in the slightest. They were just a smokescreen, a way for him to siphon money from lenders who thought they were dealing with legitimate businesses.
It's incredible how easy it seemed for him to manipulate the system.
That's the thing about fraud. It often hinges on exploiting trust and taking advantage of loopholes. And Plowden was a pro at that.
So he'd create these fake companies, get the loans approved, and then what? How did he turn those loans into spendable cash?
That's where his scheme gets even more intricate. He'd convert the loan money into prepaid cards.
Prepaid cards, like the ones you can pick up at the grocery store.
Exactly. And back then, they weren't as closely monitored as traditional debit cards, making them much harder to track.
A perfect tool for someone looking to move money under the radar.
Exactly. He would then systematically withdraw the money, little by little, through ATMs all over the place.
Talk about covering your tracks. So how much are we talking about here? How much money did he actually manage to steal?
From Countrywide Financial alone, he pocketed a staggering $1.4 million.
$1.4 million. Just from one company. You'd think that would set off some serious alarm bells.
You'd think so. But his methods were surprisingly effective. And he didn't do it all alone. Plowden had a mysterious associate, a man named David Taylor.
Ah, yes, David Taylor, the enigma wrapped in a riddle, shrouded in a mortgage scam. What did your research uncover about this guy?
Even with all the information available, Taylor remains a shadowy figure. We know he was found with a fake passport and documents directly tying him to Plowden's schemes.
So he was definitely in on it, but to what extent remains a mystery.
It's hard to say for sure, but his presence adds another layer of intrigue to this already convoluted case. And as if juggling million-dollar mortgage scams wasn't enough, Plowden had a knack for attracting trouble.
Yeah, this wasn't a guy who kept a low profile. He seemed to have a real talent for making risky connections.
You could say he had a hard time staying out of the spotlight, even when it was in his best interest to blend in.
Like that time he was busted trying to launder a huge chunk of cash with an undercover FBI agent.
Right, as if he thought he could outsmart the feds. It's almost comical how he just stumbled into their trap.
It's like he had a sixth sense for danger, except it was completely backward, always leading him towards it.
And that wasn't his only brush with the wrong side of the law. Our sources uncovered a seemingly insignificant detail that ends up playing a surprisingly significant role in this whole saga. His frequent visits to a Bronx rim shop.
A rim shop? As in, for cars? What could that possibly have to do with anything?
It's one of those strange twists of fate that make you wonder if someone was writing this guy's life story. It was at that very rim shop that Plowden crossed paths with Julio Cruz and Edward Blankenau, two individuals who would soon become entangled in his web of deceit with deadly consequences.
So they say, right? Money attracts all kinds.
And in Plowden's case, it wasn't just eager investors he attracted. His lavish lifestyle, built on ill-gotten gains, caught the eye of someone looking for a way out, someone willing to take a gamble. Gina Conway.
And boy, did she gamble big time. What's the story there? Who was Gina in all of this?
She was someone who got caught in a web, I think. Met Plowden by chance, knew he was bad news from the jump, but the allure of easy money, the escape it offered, it was too tempting, I think.
It's hard to resist the pull of that kind of lifestyle, especially when you're looking for a way out of your own reality.
Exactly. And Plowden, he knew how to exploit those vulnerabilities. He used his wealth to control those around him. And sadly, Gina became just another pawn in his game.
A classic case of a wolf in sheep's clothing, using his ill-gotten gains to lure people in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But Gina wasn't the only one drawn to Plowden's world. Her boyfriend, aspiring rapper Max B, saw an opportunity, but not one that involved staying on the right side of the law.
This is where things take that dark turn, right? From
Yeah.
shady business deals to a full-blown criminal plot. Tell me more about Max B. What was his role in all of this?
Charlie Max B. Wingate. He was young, ambitious, dreamed of making it big in the music industry, but somewhere along the line, that ambition took a wrong turn.
Driven to desperate measures, perhaps?
Maybe, but maybe also blinded by the allure of fast money and the idea that he could outsmart someone like Plowden. He, along with Gina, concocted a plan to rob Plowden blind.
So they thought they could just steal from a guy who was already knee-deep in illegal activities and somehow come out on top?
The irony isn't lost on me either, but that's the thing about desperation. It can cloud judgment, make you believe you're invincible. They thought they could disappear with his cash and start a new life. Max B even brought in an associate, Kelvin Leerdam, to help.
And that's where those chance encounters, those seemingly insignificant connections Plowden made, come back into play, right? The ones at that Bronx rim shop.
Exactly. It all went down at a Holiday Inn in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Max B sent Gina and Leerdam to do the deed. But here's the kicker. Giselle Neves, the woman connected to those guys from the rim shop. She was already in on a separate scheme, a plan to steal Plowden's car. Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Wait, so you're telling me that on top of everything else, there was another layer of scheming going on? It's like a bad joke, except with real-life consequences.
Tell me about it. Leerdam enters the room, gun drawn, demands the cash, but Plowden, cool as a cucumber, claims he doesn't have it on him, says his partner, David Taylor, is the one with the money.
Hold on. Let me get this straight. They plan to rob this guy who's already involved in who knows how many other schemes, and he doesn't even have the money on him. This is insane.
It gets worse. David Taylor, completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding, walks right into the lion's den.
Oh no, you know what's coming next.
A confrontation, a struggle, a shot fired. David Taylor, cut in the crossfire of this whole mess, ends up dead.
All because of a robbery gone wrong, a plan fueled by greed and desperation.
And you know what gets me? Those seemingly insignificant connections, they often have the most explosive consequences. Plowden's lavish lifestyle, his need to flaunt his ill-gotten gains, it drew in Gina, who brought in Max B, who then involved Kelvin Leerdam. It's like a domino effect, one bad decision leading to another.
It really highlights how interconnected our lives are, how even the smallest choices can have ripple effects we could never anticipate. So now we have a man dead, a tangled web of lies and deceit, and a group of people scrambling to save themselves. What happened next? How did the investigation unfold?
Well, the investigation itself was almost as messy as the crime. Conflicting accounts, half-truths, finger-pointing, you name it. It was a tangled mess.
Sounds like a prosecutor's nightmare. Who did they focus on?
Gina Conway became the key witness, the one who could tie everything together. She was there for the robbery, but remember, she was also under the influence at the time.
Right, which obviously throws a wrench into things. How reliable could her testimony really be?
Exactly, and to make matters worse, her story kept changing. She initially claimed she was forced into it, that Leerdam made her go along with the robbery, but then during her testimony, she backtracked, said she wasn't under duress after all.
So not exactly a slam dunk for the prosecution. Did they have any physical evidence to work with? What about Kelvin Leerdam?
They had some circumstantial stuff, things like Plowden's laptop ending up in the hands of people connected to Max B, but no smoking gun, so to speak. And as for Leerdam, there was no physical evidence linking him to the crime scene. Some even doubted he fired the fatal shot.
Wait, seriously? If not him, then who? Did they ever figure that out?
It's one of the lingering questions in this whole case. Even Giselle Neves, remember her? The woman involved in the car theft scheme with Plowden.
How could I forget? Another layer of crazy in this whole onion of a story.
Right. Well, even she added fuel to the fire. She suggested that maybe, just maybe, Plowden was somehow in on the robbery all along. Said he seemed oddly calm after Taylor was shot.
Whoa. Okay, so now we're talking about a whole new level of conspiracy. This is insane. What happened when they finally went to trial? Did any of these theories hold up in court?
Despite the lack of hard evidence, Max B, Kelvin Leerdam, and Gina Conway were all charged. The prosecution's case hinged on Gina's testimony, shaky as it was, and those circumstantial links to Plowden.
And what about Plowden? Did he manage to escape any consequences?
Not quite. Remember, he cooperated with the authorities, which is probably why he wasn't charged with anything related to the robbery or Taylor's death. However, his luck ran out when it came to the mortgage fraud charges. He ended up being convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to a hefty 24 years.
So even the mastermind behind it all couldn't outrun justice forever. What about Max B and Leerdam? What were their sentences?
They were both found guilty of felony murder, robbery, and a slew of other charges. Looking back, many believe that the decision to try them together was a mistake. Their defenses contradicted each other, ultimately weakening both of their cases.
A classic example of a case where everyone loses, some more than others. What about Gina Conway? What happened to her?
She took a plea deal in exchange for her testimony, which is
Yeah.
pretty standard in cases like this. She ended up with a much lighter sentence compared to Max B. and Leerdam.
It's a tragic end to a story fueled by greed, ambition, and a whole lot of bad decisions. It really makes you think twice about the price of easy money and the company we keep.
No doubt. But there's another layer to this whole thing, a layer that adds a whole other dimension to the idea of ambition and exploitation in the music industry, and that's Max B's relationship with Jim Jones.
Oh, right. I'd almost forgotten about that part. Didn't Jones start out as a mentor to Max B early in his career?
He did. Took him under his wing, showed him the ropes, the whole 9 yards. Right. But as Max B's career began to take off, gaining recognition for his unique style and flow, well, let's just say things got complicated.
So instead of celebrating his success, Jones saw it as a threat.
Many believe so. There are those who say that Jones saw an opportunity in Max B's incarceration. He allegedly used his influence to gain control of Max B's publishing rights, essentially profiting off his music while he was behind bars.
Talk about adding insult to injury. It's a classic story of betrayal, a cautionary tale about the dark side of the music industry.
Absolutely. It really makes you wonder about the motivations at play. Was it pure greed, professional jealousy, or a combination of both?
It's hard to say for sure, but one thing's for certain. This whole case is a tangled web of deceit, ambition, and ultimately, tragedy. It's a story about the choices we make, the people we trust, and the often unforeseen consequences that follow.
Well said. It's a reminder that sometimes the most compelling stories aren't just about the crimes themselves, but about the human drama that unfolds in their wake.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from million-dollar mortgage scams to a robbery gone wrong, and even a glimpse into the cutthroat world of the music industry.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. But if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from all of this, it's that the truth is often far stranger and far more complicated than fiction.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What became of Max B's music career? Did his unique style and influence endure despite his incarceration? Or was his potential ultimately overshadowed by the tragic events that unfolded? We'll leave that for you to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.